I am just checking. Is board member Scroggins?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Good. Okay. All right, then I think we're ready to begin. So good morning and welcome to the April 29th, 2021 meeting of the New York City Campaign Finance Board. The first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes for the April 22nd meeting. I move their approval. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstention. The motion carries. The next item on our agenda is the report of the chair. So let me just pull up my report. This is a special meeting as we welcome a new colleague to our board, Lawrence Moskowitz. Mr. Moskowitz is a longtime labor organizer who has held some very prominent roles within the Working Families Party, including National Labor Director for 7 years. Most recently, he was the Director of Social Justice at the Workmen's Circle. Notably, Mr. Moskowitz has deep experience in political campaigns and direct experience with the campaign finance program. In 1997, he was the labor advisor to the campaign of former city council member Guillermo Linares, which qualified for more than $38,000 in public matching funds. I'm confident his campaign experience will be very useful and insightful to our work together. Mr. Moskowitz, welcome to the Campaign Finance Board. We look forward to working with you. If you would like to say a few words, please do so.
Just first of all, thank you very much, and I look forward to working with everyone, both board members, staff, and the public. I think that campaign finance is one of the most democratic possible laws to give the opportunity for folks who don't necessarily have a lot of money to run, and so I'm really honored to be part of that process.
Terrific. Thank you. So continuing my report, the deadline for candidates to join the public financing program passed earlier this week on the 26th of April. A total of 441 candidates have opted to join the program. That's 93% of the candidates who registered with the CFB. We have marked a number of program records in this election cycle, so here's another. This is the most candidates that have ever chosen to join the matching funds program. With the passing of that deadline, the board will be voting to increase the spending limit for candidates in the Democratic mayoral and 2 Democratic city council primary races. Such increases are called for under the law to allow participating candidates to respond when candidates who haven't joined the program raise or spend significant amounts. Specifically, if a non-participating candidate raises or spends 50% of the spending limit, then the spending limit increases by 50%. If a non-participating candidate spends 3 times the spending limit, then the spending limit is lifted entirely. Finally, the board will vote on alleged violations and public funds repayment recommendations for 2 campaigns from the 2017 elections. These determinations will mark the end of the post-election review process for these candidates. That concludes my report for today. Now I will turn it over to Executive Director Amy Loprest.
Thank you, Chair. So I echo your welcome to our new board member, Lawrence Moskowitz. Welcome. We look forward to working with you. Last night, we held a Voter Assistance Advisory Committee meeting. Chair Schaefer nicely filled in as chair for the VAC for that meeting. During the meeting, we outlined the findings in this year's voter analysis report, covering last year's quite difficult elections in the primary and in the general election under very different and unusual circumstances. The report will be released publicly tomorrow. We were also pleased to welcome to that meeting Assembly Member Latrice Walker, who, as chair of the Assembly Election Law Committee, has been quite busy introducing a lot and getting past a lot of reforms to New York State's electoral process. So hopefully all of those changes will make it easier and more convenient for voters in future elections. We also outlined our plans for the upcoming education campaign on ranked choice voting, went over what we've been doing so far since January, and what we did for the special elections that were held this in February and March. We are really happy to hear that Mayor de Blasio announced yesterday that there will be that the city will commit an additional $15 million to advertise ranked choice voting, and we anticipate that that additional funding will give our efforts in educating the voters about ranked choice voting a boost. Again, our goal, as always, is to ensure that the voters know that ranked choice voting is here and understand and are able to fully utilize it when they go to the polls in the primary in June.
I have just a tiny point. Are we recording? Are we supposed to be recording, and are we recording? Because I don't get the indication that we are.
The recording, I have an indication that the recording has started.
Okay.
I'll just make sure with our recorder. Daphne, are we recording? Okay, yep, she confirmed that we are.
Good.
Never mind.
Very good. So our next item of business is we have two candidates who are appearing. One with respect to some proposed penalties and funds repayments from the 2017 election, and one in connection with a Rule 7-09 petition in the current election cycle. So the first candidate scheduled to appear is Deidre Oliveira with respect to the 2017 election. Is Ms. Oliveira on the line?
I just got an email from Ms. Oliveira saying she was in the meeting and wasn't able to access her mic or video. So I asked her to retry and closing the browser and re-enter. So I don't believe she's here right now.
All right. Well, in that case, the other candidate scheduled to appear in connection with the petition for public funds payments in the current election cycle is Tiffany Tucker Pryor. Is Ms. Tucker Pryor on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so why don't we start with you, and then we'll catch up with Ms. Oliveira when she's able to access the meeting. Do we have a
Video? Should I turn my camera on? I wasn't sure.
That's up to you. That's up to you. We're happy to see you. If you'd like, there you are. Okay, good.
Yes.
And who from the CFB staff is handling this matter?
My treasurer, her name is Leonie Morris, and so she's also on.
Okay, and from the campaign finance board?
That would be
Who do we have?
Jason Yee.
Jason, very good. Jason, why don't you give us just a 1 or 2 sentence summary of what this is about, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to Ms. Tucker Carlson to make her argument.
Sure. Good morning, Chair Schaefer, Executive Director Loprest, members of the board, and Ms. Tucker Pryor. Before the board is a matter of the April 15th public funds payment determination for the Tiffany Tucker Pryor campaign for the 2021 election for City Council District 46. The campaign has submitted a petition pursuant to Board Rule 709, challenging the determination. Board staff recommends the board deny the campaign's petition and instead review the campaign's eligibility in the normal course. Thank you.
All right. And I got your name wrong a moment ago. I apologize, Ms. Tucker Pryor. The floor is now yours.
Hello, how's everyone doing today?
Just great, thank you.
Good. I want to say thank you all for giving us this opportunity. One of the main reasons why we are petitioning the appeal is because it was stated that in 2 different reports, that we were not eligible because we did not meet the threshold. So from the report that was sent to us, it said that we only had 64 of the 75 for the matching threshold. However, that was not the case. When we actually downloaded the report from the new system, the system said that we had 72. And then when we spoke to Honda, who is our liaison, he also found additional glitches. So with additional glitches, saying that no, he believes that there were some instances where we could have had those rectified. However, because the system transitioned and changed over, it seems as if we did not. Now, I'm not a wasteful person, so I actually, this is for me. It is important for me, for my team, to get these campaign finances, right? For us, we've already budgeted where we know that if we can get up to $70,000, we can run a very effective campaign, and we're doing everything possible in order to meet that. And we did everything possible in order to meet that threshold. And so with the glitches in the system and the misreports, I know that there was a small margin of error. It's possible that maybe from what we recorded, after we had done all our revisions, because initially in the first review, we did not meet the threshold. So that I can agree upon. The February 15th date, we did not. And so I changed my treasurer. So we actually had another treasurer before this, but now we have Miss Leonie Morris, who is exceptionally thorough. We have gone through every single last one of those people, and it's stated that some of the people do not live in the district. However, I've checked every person we have on our records. It shows that we have 76 people versus the 75 that is needed. I went in on council.nyc.gov and I put in every last person's address I copied and pasted every person's address in there, and all those people live in our district. We have 76 people that live in the district. And from all the corrections that was supposed to be made from the last report from February 15th, all those corrections were made. Yes, for the 7th, the statement number 7, we did notice that there were eight of the 75 that there was a minor thing that was not checked off, and it was that we didn't list that they gave cash on the contribution cards. There was just one small thing for us to check off, that it was supposed to be cash for 8 people after we had done a revision of every single last person of the 144 people who donated to the campaign. We revised everything that was done, and we did everything that we were asked to do, other than 8 people not checking off the word, not checking in that box cash. Literally, that was the mistake for the 8 people. And so with that being said, with that small margin of error, for those 8 people, we would qualify with the 76 people that we have for meeting the threshold for campaign finance. You're on mute, sir. It's okay.
Rick, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Mr. Yee, would you like to respond?
Yeah, so a number of points. So in the document that the campaign sent, there is, which is attached as Exhibit 2 to the board memo, there are a number of contributions that you see there where the campaign is marked in the under status, corrected statement of review number 6 and 7, or address verification letter, save to CSmart, April 26, 2021. So all of these notes indicate, and it matches with our records, that these contributions, the documentation or other information that was required to be matched, that was all submitted after the disclosure statement 17, or excuse me, disclosure statement 7 deadline. And that is the deadline upon which this payment was based. So the campaign hasn't shown good cause to bring new information or documentation for this payment determination to be reversed, and so it really just makes more sense, and in fact is the point of the statement and review response procedure for the CFB staff to review all of the documentation that has been submitted after that disclosure statement in the response to the statement of reviews that staff sends out in the normal course, and for the board to determine at the next payment date whether the campaign is eligible for public funds.
When is
May I say something? Sorry.
when is that?
Sorry. Who's saying?
Yes, would you like to respond?
Mr. Yee, when is the next payment date, if you know?
The tentative date is May 13th.
Yes, I want to respond to what Mr. Yee said. With the attachment that we sent stating that all those documentations were already corrected in statement number 6, they were. The only thing we changed after receiving this report was the 8 people that we noticed that were on the report that they sent back. Everyone else was already, that's why we put already changed, and all that information was already submitted in statement number 6 report. So that is incorrect. All those people, those things were already rectified. The only thing that we changed, and you can check in C-Smart because C-Smart stamps and dates everything. So the only thing that we changed were the actual 8 people that were sent back in statement number 7. Those were the people that we updated because we said, why do they keep sending us back the same people that we already sent in, that we corrected? We said, this is mind blowing. What is going on? And so at that point, we went in and we reviewed what was sent back to us. And so we then went ahead and resubmitted all the changes. And when we resubmitted based on what it was said, it was because we didn't check the box cash. It said the instrument was not checked. And so what we went ahead and did was simply checked off the instrument, which was cash, which was the cash donation. That is what we did. I'm not 100% sure why would it be that those 8 people that we went in and changed, why would that's a very small margin of error in regards to the full 75 of all the people. And it wasn't a major mistake. Everything was documented from the cash, from the contribution cards to the deposit slips. Everything was in and submitted and documented.
So if I understand correctly, and just make sure they understand the order, your position is that the only additional quote unquote information provided after the 15th was the added notification on the 8, which were cash. Everything else was before, even if you resubmitted it after because it hadn't been picked up, but those changes were made. That information was before. So the issue is as to the 8, from your perspective.
Exactly. So all of the 8 people that would have helped us to meet threshold, what we did, there were 14 mistakes, right? For the people that was sent, but there were 8 people of the 14 that would help us to meet threshold. So we did revise all 14 people, but I'm talking about the 8 people that would help us to meet the threshold because it was stating that we did not meet threshold because of those 8 people, but the report said it was 64 people. So the numbers are still not adding up. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And so there's a glitch and error with what is happening with the new system, the old system. I'm not 100% sure, but I know for a fact the mistake on our part was, yes, we checked. We said, what's the issue here? And all those people, we simply didn't check that they said that they gave us cash. It was a cash contribution.
So
Right. Let me ask this question of Mr. Yee. I want to separate out the factual question and the legal question. Just factually, do you agree that the 8 people who had not checked cash and whose contribution cards were subsequently corrected, if they were counted, would that put the campaign over the threshold? Just that factual question.
So, no, in the sense that it was not merely 8 people. In fact, it was 11 people based on the report that we had sent back to the campaign and the campaign had sent to us. Even if you put back in the 8 people, and again, it was not merely checking a single box, there was actual missing backup documentation for these contributions. So we're talking the underlying check or the contribution card. But even if you add back in 8 people, right, the campaign is still short of the threshold, which is so 64 plus additional 8, they're 72 of 75. So even if these minor errors, which again, I would contest that those are not the errors as Ms. Tucker Pryor is characterizing them, even if those were perfected, the campaign still wouldn't meet threshold. And that's not, considering the legal question of all of this being submitted after the deadline, which, this isn't
Right. No, we understand the legal point as well. I was just getting at the factual question.
Yeah. So just to be clear, it's like Ms. Tucker Pryor filed her disclosure statement 6 of some claims were invalidated. She was, and some of those were missing documentation. She submitted that with her response, that missing documentation with her response to that review from statement 6, also filed statement 7. But when she submitted the missing contribution cards, some of them were these that were missing the instrument code being checked off, which is a part in the rules, has to be completed by the contributor. And the instructions that we give campaigns about rectifying, a missing instrument code, which is the technical term for that, is that they should get an affirmation from the contributor affirming that statements affirming that they did indeed give by cash, money order, check, however they gave their contribution.
And I would like to add on many of the contributions that Ms. Tucker Pryor is talking about, where there was an issue of the instrument code, or the checkbox as she refers to it. There were also other issues that invalidated those contributor claims. So, for example, one of them didn't have the contributor's full name. Another had an incomplete address. There are a number of issues that we're talking about, and it simply isn't 8 instances of a very minor error.
So a couple questions. Were the cards that were missing the instrument code, were they accompanied by the required affidavit?
No. Well, so some of them have been submitted after the fact, and some have not to date. But again, this is all part of the normal statement review process. The campaign has the opportunity to correct all of these in the normal course, and that's why multiple payment dates exist, and that's why we have this back and forth of documentation. The 709 petition, the entire point of it is to overturn a previous decision that was at the time on that information documentation incorrect, and that's simply not the case here.
If has Ms. Tucker Pryor met the 75 threshold now? And you may not know the answer to that, but if you know.
No.
In other words, you do know, and she still has not met it according to CFP staff, she's still not met the 75 threshold.
That's correct. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I believe the campaign is still a few contributors short of the 75.
So this may not even be relevant, but is there a good faith exception for a candidate who misses the deadline we're describing? I mean, if Ms. Tucker Pryor were correct, that she did in fact meet it prior to the last deadline, and and only made a minor error in the documentation. And that was the result of her missing the deadline. Is there a good faith exception for that if she's, just shortly after the deadline, it's a very small.
So is the question whether there is a good faith deadline for minor errors when the campaign is close to the threshold?
No, and I'm probably not describing it perfectly, and you may not know the answer off the top of your head, but the question is if Ms. Tucker Pryor, in fact, had the 75 before the deadline, and the only reason she missed the deadline was because she failed in some minor way by a very brief period to meet the deadline, is there a good faith exception for that failure?
So I had 2 points. First, there is no good faith exception deadline, unless she shows good cause in this forum for why that information and documentation was not prior submitted before the deadline. Second, I would argue, in fact, that the whole point of getting to the deadline is that there are no errors. So simply by virtue of the fact that these, errors existed and these claims were invalidated, I mean, that is per se evidence that the campaign didn't meet the threshold on that deadline. And again, I want to impress upon the board the fact that the good faith exception that you're looking for is in fact the normal review process where we would look at all the documentation that the campaign has submitted after the fact, and we would decide whether to issue a payment in an additional 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Yes, I do also want to say this, and then I want to ask my treasurer to say something. But the report that was sent to us stated that there was 64 missing. Then there was only 64 qualifying to meet the threshold. However, when we downloaded the report, the report from CSmart, the CSmart says that we had 72. So how is it that the report says 64, CSmart says 72, and we say 76?
So I don't know
Something's wrong.
72 figure the Ms. Tucker Pryor is referring to, but I will say that's not consistent with what I saw in our records. That is not consistent with the figures I've talked to with audit, and that's also not consistent with the figures and the spreadsheet that the campaign themselves sent to us.
So can I can just explain that what is, the candidate enters contributions into CSmart, and therefore, that is the number that you've entered. You indicate whether you're whether a person is an in-district contribution or not, and then but the audit staff reviews the documentation. So that is often, and almost almost all cases, that after the audit staff reviews documentation, they find things that are invalid. And so therefore, that report that shows which things are invalid is the report that the campaign should work from and try and correct those invalid claims. CSmart is not, is a reporting software. The audit process and the review of the statements is that statement review and that document that was sent to the campaign with all of the invalid claims on it that candidates are to work on and to fix. So just to be clear on the process, and again, you can I advise, we have our candidate service liaison Honda and our audit staff who can work with Ms. Tucker Pryor to perhaps understand which contributions still are at issue.
If Ms. Tucker Pryor, you wanted your treasurer to say something?
Yes, please.
Go right ahead.
Hi, good morning. Thank you again for taking the time to meet with us. And not to labor on the point, we're not very confused about this, but according to our records, and we're standing by that, we have 76 contributions that are residents that meet threshold with, yes, the 8 that we corrected. I will also point out to Mr. Yee, according to the report that you've submitted to the board, that spreadsheet or corrections within statement 6, we submitted those corrections on time. We diligently went through those corrections. As you see, it says corrected statement 6. It was not submitted beyond the deadline. It was submitted on the deadline. And upon submitting that, we got an immediate report that we did not meet threshold. And that was also incorrect. And I will also go to the point of Amy stating that we do not just use CSMART as our reference. We print all these documents. We print that 64-page threshold and go through it page by page diligently and thoroughly to make this recommendation to you. We do admit that there were 5 or 6 of them that we corrected recently on the 26th, but they are part of those residents that met threshold. We have not all our submissions were corrected and submitted according to deadline. Our campaign is very diligent on deadline and time with the CFB, and we wanted to make sure that we brought this to your attention because something is wrong. We have met several times with Honda. He also is investigating the matter because he also saw things that were incorrect and did not match. We have laboriously asked to meet with the audit team. I believe her name is Allison. They have not responded to us, and we have taken the time to go through this diligently. And that is why we are now making this case to the CFB, because there is an error. There is definitely an error, and we'd like someone to investigate this. Again, we have met with Honda on several times. He also sent us an email on Monday stating that he's investigating the matter because we went through each resident individually, and he saw that there was an error. And we have asked several times to meet with Allison so that we can see exactly what we're doing incorrectly. So we would like for someone from audit to meet with us so that we can go through this report, because I will put to the board, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us, but there is an error in this report. Something is not matching up. And according to the report we sent, 76 residents meet threshold.
Just to be clear, the 76 includes the 8 that we were discussing earlier.
That is correct, yes.
Okay, I think we've got all of the points in mind. We'll deliberate on this just shortly. Yes, Mr. Yee, one short final point.
To Mr. Davis's question just now, it's staff's position is that no, it's with the 8 with the corrections that they are saying that were corrected with statement 6. Those are included in the 64.
No, wait a second. I think I was just asking her if her count of 76 included the 8. That's all.
And that is correct. Yes, it does.
I'm just trying to get what her position is. Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very briefly, Mr. Yee, you said the tentative next deadline and the tentative next payments May 13th.
That's correct.
What is the deadline? What is the next deadline to receive public funds on that approximate date? If you know.
I don't have it in front of me, but it is. Give me a moment. I can.
So let me just, while you look at that, Ms. Tucker Pryor, needless to say, you should work with staff to make sure you hit that 75 deadline before, that 75 threshold before that deadline. So we're not, in the same position again. Anyway, if you can't find it now, Mr. Yee, obviously, we have deliberation to do, but Ms. Tucker.
And I understand, and I just want to say this in closing, I really do appreciate you guys taking the time to meet with me, and I'm not here to scrutinize the campaign finance. I appreciate the opportunity to have the ability to get the funds that we need in order to run this election. But I just want you all to know that I'm working diligently. Like I said, I had a treasurer before that didn't work out. I went and I got a new treasurer, and we worked diligently to ensure hours and hours were spent to ensure that we met the deadline and we submitted everything that we possibly could. Whatever it is that we missed, again, we corrected, yes. And I am open to meeting with whomever to help us to move this thing forward. And I'm just asking for some consideration in regards to everything that we have done so far, because we're not slouches, where we have been committed to this, and we continue to do everything that we're asked, and we want to remain in good standing and in legal binding with the Campaign Finance Board.
Okay, thank you very much. The next candidate appearance is Ms. Oliveira. Is she with us now?
It is my understanding that she was able to join, so I.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Great. So the way this is going to work, I'm going to ask Mr. Gallagher to briefly describe what the issue before us is, and then Ms. Oliveira, it'll be your opportunity to make any presentation to make. There might be some back and forth and some questions from the board, and then we'll go into deliberations and come back and announce our decision. So Mr. Gallagher, why don't you start the ball rolling?
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Schaefer and members of the board, Executive Director Loprest and Ms. Oliveira. I'm Joseph Gallagher, Senior Associate Counsel for the CFB, and appearing with me today is Victoria Telt, a Senior Auditor at the CFB. Before the board this morning is the matter of the Deidre Oliveira campaign in the 2017 primary election for City Council, District 41 in Brooklyn. The campaign was a participant in the program and received public funds. CFB staff recommends that the board find the campaign committed the following 4 violations of the Act and board rules: failing to document transactions, making impermissible post-election expenditures, failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts reporting and documentation requirements, and making a cash expenditure greater than $100. CFB staff further recommends the board find the campaign must repay public funds. The campaign contests these violations and penalties and repayment obligations.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Oliveira, the floor is yours.
Hi, I don't know if I am supposed to respond to each individual.
You can proceed in any way you like.
Okay, in regards to, I'm sorry, I'm looking right now. I would like to note at this time that I did provide document. I don't know why my camera isn't working. It should be on, but it's not on.
We will give you the same consideration
Okay.
as we would with the video, so don't worry about it.
Thank you so much. In regards to, I want to start from the last one, making cash expenditures greater than 100 with the public, I think with the recommendation being $80. We do not disagree with that. First of all, I'm sorry, let me say again. I've provided documentation that I do not have medical clearance at this time to be fully conducting and responding to this notice. I've previously submitted that to the board. Also, in regards to the formerly Friends of Deidre Oliveira committee, I'm responding on their behalf. In the making cash expenditures greater than 100 with the penalty of $80, the campaign does not disagree with this finding. And failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts, reporting and documentation of $126. I do not believe, I believe the campaign also did not disagree with this finding at the stated amount of $126. In the matter of the other making impermissible post-election expenditures. I believe the campaign at that time did state that they believe that the expenditure that it was proper according to, okay, it says here, I do have some paperwork, like I said, which I was unable to turn in at this time because of my doctor's recommendations, but It says that the formerly Friends of Deidre Oliveira campaign disagrees with this finding because it believes that the expenditures were in furtherance of the campaign and it was in compliance to admin code 3-7031DG. The board rule 4-01 and the enforcement notice for Deidre Oliveira's 2017 election campaign, candidate ID 1933P, because it provided the copies of the front and the back of all cash checks, bank statements. Now, I don't know if that was the right one. Yeah. Anyway, we believe that it was in accordance with what was acceptable as far as campaign closure and wrapping up the campaign based on the administrative codes, which allowed for staff members to be retained after the campaign just to kind of do the work that was necessary to be done. And so rather than have a bunch of people do a job, we just kept one person on that kind of did everything that was necessary to do in order to vacate the offices for the campaign and to wrap up the campaign. And the I don't know, am I making any sense or?
No, we understand. You're doing just fine.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. So also, so the largest, so we do believe that we have, yeah, I can't say we, I hate talking in terms of now because the campaign no longer exists. The formerly Friends of Deidre Oliveira campaign is no longer in existence. So I believe, like I said, just speaking in good faith on behalf of the formerly Friends of Deidre campaign, we do believe that we were able to provide the timesheets that outlined exactly the work that was done, and they were signed timesheets and they were uploaded and given to the campaign finance board. In regards to the larger accepting a contribution from a limited liability company, I'm just checking over my notes to make sure that's what it's here in exhibit.
I don't think that's one of the.
Yeah.
In exhibit 1, okay. Yeah, that's actually number 1 on exhibit 1.
That violation changed from accepting a contribution to limited liability company to failing to document transactions to that entity.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's the same fact pattern. It's a different recommended violation.
Got you. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up. So we hired the campaign, the committee. The Friends of Deidre Oliveira committee had hired a consultant. Actually, we ended up hiring 2 consultants. We hired Latif Terrell of Chyford, and we hired Quefton as a consultant. We initially hired Chyford. There was a agreement, a contract that he had provided. There was a contract that he had provided, and then there was an addendum attached with the financial portion. And while I believe the Friends of Deidre Oliveira, formerly the Friends of Deidre Oliveira committee, did agree to the consultation portion as far as what services he would deliver, the campaign did not agree to the exorbitant amount that his campaign was asking for. And so we did not sign that agreement, the financial portion, to say that we would agree to this addendum. So rather than agree to the addendum, the campaign had agreed to invoice, to be invoiced for services according to the contract of the services that would be provided. Mr. Terrell did not provide the services. He did provide some services. However, he failed to provide us with the documentation to say, yes, well, we're going to invoice for this. His, it wasn't broken down, it wasn't clear, and it violated what it is that he said how it is that he would transact business in the consultation portion of the contract, not the financial portion, but the consultation portion. And so we decided it was better to not have Mr. Terrell continue to do business with the campaign, as opposed to continue to do business with him because he was not providing those documents timely. And so the attorney at that time, it's an exhibit, it's been provided, the letter that the attorney provided to write him, that he had violated the terms of the contract by not providing the documentation, by not providing the invoices as he stated that he would. We have clear information from Mr. Latif, as well as email documentation where he kept saying that he would invoice the campaign. He was finished. It got to the point where he was very rude and disrespectful, cursing and sending unacceptable emails to us. However, even in our last request made by the attorney, Ali Najmi, to provide for us any invoices that he felt were outstanding and that needed to be settled, he never provided a response for that. Since then, we have made several email requests to him, as well as text requests to say, hey, can you please provide us a final invoice if you do feel that there is anything else due, and we would like you to give us the documentation, to which he has not. Along with, we had Chyford. Chyford was responsible for payroll, for staffing, for invoicing, for managing the entire campaign. We provided all of the timesheets to Chyford, who was supposed to then, he said he would scan it and he would give it back to us at the campaign. That did not happen. We made several requests from him as well. Hey, can you please provide the campaign with copies of the payroll timesheets? He stated that he had a personal issue and that I believe that his apartment was robbed because he had to go out of state. I have an email from him as well. It says that Question Consultant worked with the campaign. They helped with the payroll and the timesheets. Unfortunately, the timesheets were taken along with other possessions during a burglary he said that he had in September 2009. So he said he was unable to provide us with the timesheets. We did, however, upload all the information that we had regarding payroll and good faith into the C-Smart system. I have notarized affidavits from Johnny May, who was a campaign liaison, as well as from Zalise, attested to the matter that there was no agreement to pay an addendum to Chyford, and the services were supposed to be invoiced by Mr. Terrell, and they were not. And also that Zalise, I'm sorry, is the treasurer, and also from Zalise that she met with Mr. Jarvis Houston in person and gave him what she did have in regards to the timesheets and the payroll and the documents. And like I said, he just said that he does not have them.
All right. Well, thank you. That's very helpful. Mr. Gallagher, do you have anything to say in response?
No, not so much. We didn't receive the communications from the campaign to Chyford. Audit will, or CFP staff will take that into consideration if a campaign reaches out to a vendor and they refuse to comply or refuse to provide documentation. So we haven't seen that, but I'm not saying that it doesn't exist because of the difficulty in responding to the enforcement notice. And then just one thing on the impermissible post-election expenditures. The campaign workers that Ms. Oliveira was referring to, yes, they were paid post-election, and the documentation that was missing was a timesheet or other documentation showing that the the worker did perform winding up campaign activities. Again, I'm not saying they don't exist. It's just that we don't have them at this point in time.
Can I?
Yes,
can I
please. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. I would also like to respond, like I said, without being able to fully go into depth. I was in a very serious car accident. And I have been having a lot of procedures and treatments. And like I said, under medical advisement, I was unable to fully provide a package which I thought was due to the CFB, just kind of with all of the information. I would, however, be able to upload the documents probably by today of just what I have. I was under the impression that I needed to fully respond to the whole document, which I did last time. I turned in approximately 400 or 500 pages. We really gave every single document that we had to the CFB. Since then, we were able to obtain, like I said, the notarized affidavits from the treasurer, from the campaign liaison, and we can provide that. I mean, I can scan that in. I don't think that would be against my doctor's recommendations, just to scan in the few documents that I've mentioned today.
Well, let me suggest this. First of all, we are aware of and very sorry about your medical condition, and we will, of course, take that into account. I think we'll see what develops in deliberations, but we may very well be inclined to take you on your statement as to what you have in the way of additional affidavits. But if we want you to upload any further documents, we'll let you know. But for now, let's just leave it with your statements as to what it is that you have on hand, okay?
Yes, thank you. Well, I'd also like to state I don't have the financial means at this time to pay back the proposed penalties. Like I said, I'm currently unemployed for over a year. I am, receiving workers' compensation and due to the accident, and I don't have the financial means to pay this back. And the campaign, like I said, no longer exists, and we don't plan on running for office again. And I don't believe that the campaign, since it doesn't exist, has the ability to pay back the penalty either.
Okay, well, we understand and we understand that, and we'll also take that into account.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, thank you. At this time, the board will go into deliberations on the two matters that we've heard candidates presenting, and as well as a third matter where there was no candidate appearance, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you.
Ms. Olivera, did you have a question?
Yes, hello?
Yes, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm sorry. I did have a question. I just, I don't know what the process is. I don't know if we're supposed to stay on the line or are we supposed to go?
I'm sorry, usually the chair explains the process. So what happens is the board is deliberating on the matters that they heard today, and then one other matter that there was no candidate appearance, and then they'll come back into public session and vote on all those matters and some other matters. So you can either wait and when they come back into public session, just hold on the line here, or you can if you want to leave, you can leave, and Mr. Gallagher will call you right after the board meeting and tell you the board's decision.
Okay, so is the decision final? Do we have the opportunity to say anything else or?
No, when they make their decision, that'll be the end. You won't have an opportunity to speak again.
Okay, all right. So thank you so much for coming on.
Okay,
I just didn't know what I was supposed to do. I'm like, are we supposed to
I was
stay or go or?
I thought I should talk to you. Okay.
Thank you for answering. I appreciate it.
Somebody needs to mute their microphone.
It would help me with the video if board member Scroggins and that each board member announce when they come in, because I can pin them for the video purposes.
I'm here, Amy Marian.
Okay.
But I think we're all here now, Amy.
Okay.
Do you need announcements from people on video?
Yeah. No, it just if I can pin so that you'll all be viewed all the time in the video. So that's I just do that. As you, sometimes it's hard to find. Sometimes it's hard to find you in the list of attendees. So thank you.
Feedback is coming from board member Moskowitz's mic. If that could be muted.
Is it really?
Yes, that's where the sounds are coming from.
Oh.
Well, it just stopped, so I'm not sure what that was, but
Okay.
all right. So we've deliberated on these matters, and the board will now vote on its proposed resolution. I'll begin with the Rule 709 petition. I move that the board deny the petition with a caveat that I'll include in just a minute. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Where the proposal is to deny the petition, but with the understanding that our staff, both campaign liaison and audit staff, will work diligently with the campaign to iron out any remaining issues that can be ironed out in time for the next payment cycle. Obviously, we can't guarantee that all of the requirements have been met because we don't see the documentation, but we rely on everybody's diligence and good faith to see that this gets ironed out promptly. And so with that caveat, all those in favor of the motion say aye. 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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Next, we have the two matters coming from the 2017 election. I'll do these one at a time. The first is candidate Deidre Oliveira, a 2017 candidate for City Council District 41. And we propose to find the following violations and impose the following penalties. 1, failing to document transactions, violation, but no penalty. 2, making impermissible post-election expenditures, violation, no penalty. 3, failing to demonstrate compliance with cash receipts reporting and documentation requirements, $126. 4, making a cash expenditure greater than $100, $80, for total penalties of $206. In addition, there is a required public funds repayment of $11,778. This is a obligation and therefore a liability only of the campaign. The personal liability of the candidate is limited to the outstanding balance in the campaign's bank account, which we understand to be $258. Whatever it is, it is. And so the total recommended penalties plus repayment with the proviso that I've just explained is $11,984. I move the approval of those findings and penalties and repayments. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Next, we have candidate Pia Raymond, a 2017 candidate for City Council District 40. The board proposes to find the following violations and impose the following penalties. 1, accepting contributions from corporations, $525. 2, failing to demonstrate compliance with subcontractor reporting and documentation requirements, $50. 3, failing to document transactions, $790. 4, failing to demonstrate compliance with intermediary reporting and documentation requirements, $200. 5, failing to demonstrate that spending was in furtherance of the campaign, $544. 6, making impermissible post-election expenditures, $130. 7, failing to respond to the draft audit report and filing a late response to the initial documentation request, $9,839, for total penalties of $12,078. In addition, a required public funds repayment of $78,141 for a total of penalties and repayment obligation of $90,219. I move the approval of those findings and penalties and repayment. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. Okay, let me just get my agenda back up on the screen. Just give me a moment because I've lost it. Hang on one second. Okay, so let's see. We have some proposed rules to issue for public comment. Amy, would you like to tee up that issue for us, please?
Actually, our interim general counsel, Bethany Persky, will be.
Oh, Bethany, sorry. Thank you. Bethany?
Yes, good morning. Today, the board will vote on proposed amendments to the rules regarding expenditures made for the purpose of furthering a candidate's selection as Speaker of the City Council. These amendments are being made to clarify the requirements applicable to candidates who wish to use campaign funds to run for council speaker. Pursuant to Section 1043 of the New York City Charter, the proposed rules will be published in the City Record, and after a 30-day public comment period, the board will hold a public hearing for anyone who wishes to testify. The hearing will be held remotely, and the access link will be posted to the board's website. Thank you.
All right, I move the issuance of the proposed rules for public comment. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion carries. The next item that's listed on our agenda, we're going to put off till our next meeting, the adoption of the ethical guidelines. I think that completes our work, and since...
Excuse me, Chair, you skipped the vote on the expenditure limit.
Oh, sorry, you're right. I skipped over item 9. Thank you very much. We need to consider expenditure limit relief, a very important matter. Amy, will you explain that one?
Yes. Pursuant to Administrative Code, Section 3-706-3AI, if a non-participating candidate raises or spends a certain amount, then the expenditure limit is raised and or lifted for the remaining participants in that race. The staff is recommending that the board raise the expenditure limit in 2 races, the Democratic primary for mayor and the City Council District 41, based on reporting by non-participating candidates in those races. The staff is also recommending that the board lift the expenditure limit entirely for City Council District 17, again, based on reporting by a non-participant in that race.
Could you explain, just make it clear when you say raise, but not what it's being raised to?
Okay, so the expenditure limit for the Democratic mayoral primary and the Democratic primary in District 41 would be raised to 150% of the original spending limit, and the spending limit would be entirely lifted in the Democratic primary for City Council District 41.
All right, I move that the board raise the expenditure limits as just specified to 150% in the Democratic primary for mayor and the Democratic primary for Council District 41, and to remove the cap entirely for the Democratic primary for Council District 17. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the motion carries. I don't think we're going to need an executive session since what we were going to discuss, we've already discussed prior to today's meeting. And so I will move that the board adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? The motion, we have completed our business for today. Thank you all very much and see you next time.
Thank you.